I've heard a lot of people recently been calling out Fortnite for being a blatant ripoff of PUBG. This is obviously just a statement by a salty PUBG fanboy who is mad because a new game on the block is contending for the most popular Battle Royale game spot. Well, today I'm going to be going over why Fortnite and PUBG are nowhere near the same, so much so that they could be considered polar opposites. First off, let me begin by explaining that, and this may come as a surprise to some people, PUBG is not the first Battle Royale game. Shocker, I know. Games like H1Z1 and even Minecraft Hunger Games were Battle Royale games with the same basic premise of spawn in, find loot, kill people for their loot, and then be the last one standing. These games are also coming in their respective 1-man, 2-man, 3-man, 4-man game modes. So if anyone is copying anyone, it's Minecraft. This of course is all core gameplay, mechanics, and ideals that are being copied. Well, I shouldn't really say that when it isn't really copied, when such a common idea or premise is being used. It would be like saying COD's Team Deathmatch copied Halo Slayer because they both have teams that use guns to kill each other with respawn timers and a score limit to win. The point is, PUBG didn't invent the idea, neither did Fortnite, but they both have a right to use the Battle Royale idea because it's so common. The reason why PUBG exploded is because it's the first major Battle Royale game that is largely accessible and isn't a mod or a game mode for a different game. It was designed by people, especially PlayerUnknown, who was a well-known game modder, who knew exactly what they were doing and designed it especially for Battle Royale. It has a dedicated team working behind it and always changes up the formula, spicing up the gameplay and overall mode quite a bit. Anyways, what makes Fortnite so different from PUBG is 5 categories. 1. The pace of the game. 2. Inventory system. 3. Strategies and ways to win the game. 4. Realism. And 5. Gameplay. Let's start out with 1. The pacing of the game. PUBG games can take up to an hour, while Fortnite games last at most 30 to 40 minutes. This is largely due to the map size, since both games have 100 players. The map size has a lot to do with how often you're finding the players, changing the pace of the game. In Fortnite, you are almost always finding people due to the map being at least 50% smaller than PUBG's map, making Fortnite games shorter because there are more people dying and finding each other, meaning it's more fast-paced with constant action most of the time. This differentiates between PUBG, that in which you're going to a major hotspot can take up to 30 minutes to find someone else, making it longer and less action-packed, making Fortnite a more fast-paced game and PUBG a slower, more thought-out game, which leads to number 2, the inventory system. This is probably the biggest and most important difference between the two games because it affects how you play the games drastically. You can see PUBG's inventory system is just much more realistic and complex, matching the game's real lifestyle gameplay. You can spend most of the game just looting and getting your inventory to be a perfect killing machine. PUBG's inventory is complex and realistic, being able to have 2 primary weapons and 1 secondary and 1 melee. On top of this, you have a plethora of different attachments that go on these guns. They all do different things, and some attachments can only go on certain guns, or some guns can't take certain attachments, and some attachments have to stick to certain weapon types. You also have a large selection of clothing, armor, utility items, and consumables to manage as well. There's also different types of ammo and throwable items, so there's a shit ton of stuff to factor in here. So it's no surprise that this one takes some getting used to for new players. But after a while, when you get used to it, it's a great system, and you can spend half your game just getting your guy completely decked out, an absolute complete killing machine that caters towards your playstyle. This complex but simple to use inventory system perfectly matches PUBG's realistic, carefully thought out gameplay. Fortnite, however, is the exact opposite of this system, being extremely simple and they only have 5 slots to hold whatever items you want. And for armor is simply just shields given to you by different consumable items, such as shield potion. You would have a skin either picked out by the game or a paid/earned one if you have one. So no clothing to worry about. There's also no attachments, only better versions of guns you can find. This may be a lot simpler than PUBG's inventory system, but it does have its advantages as it caters towards the game's fast-paced, lots of action gameplay. Meaning you spend more time shooting, gathering resources, building, and looting than decking out your character. So obviously, with these 2 polar opposite inventory systems, the strategy for both games is different, which so happens to be number 3 on our list. And while you may think that PUBG is more strategy than Fortnite, that is incorrect. Let me explain. PUBG's strategy is very realistic, falling right along with the theme as you generally to be stealthy, quick, and effective in finding other players, or moving into the eye when things get intense. This is because being spotted generally means being shot at, and being in the top 30 at lore means that squad or person probably doesn't have too much potato aim. So depending on how much cover you have nearby, you're probably going to die. So being as stealthy as possible means you don't die, and staying on the down low, either hiding in shade or out of sight, means you'll be safe and you can get the drop on your opponents. Meaning this strategy of stealth, hiding, and waiting for your opponents is normally the best way to win. This can work for Fortnite too, except for one thing: bases. One thing that can undeniably separate PUBG from Fortnite is that almost all of its environments, except for the ground, is destructible. And breaking trees, houses, piles of trash, rocks, etc. gives you resources that you can build with. This puts a whole new perspective on Battle Royale games and subsequently strategies in them. With this game's amazing building system, you can build massive forts of your design. but this isn't always the best strategy, of course. It also means that if you get shot at, you can now build and have a fighting chance, meaning that you can always pull some amazing clutch plays. So now instead of sneaking around, you can risk building a fort in the eye when it's small and try to hold out. This can be ineffective, however, depending on how big the eye or base is, as the eye might move out of the area, so a mix of stealth, resource management, knowing when to build a base, and how big to build it, as well as the most effective material to use, as well as in general how to build an effective base, all play into Fortnite's strategy and how to win. Meaning Fortnite, while more fast-paced and unrealistic, doesn't necessarily mean it has less strategy. I've already basically described how number 4, realism, works, just by discussing the points so far, but just to wrap it up nicely, I'll go over it real quickly here. PUBG is a realism-based game, meaning all the gameplay, graphics, items, and actions your character does needs to be as realistically possible as it can be without ruining the fun. Fortnite is almost the complete opposite of this, focusing on very unrealistic gameplay with cartoonish graphics and goofy emotes with ridiculous skins. However, it also maintains a level of base realism, not breaking all semblance of physics, such as buildings can't just be floating in midair. For our last category, number 5, gameplay, has much been already talked about here and there, but I will go over it again just so it's all in one spot. PUBG has a very large map, which paired with its 100 player count means unless you go into a major hotspot, people are often far and few between, for at least the first or second eye or so, meaning that most of the game is looting, running, camping, driving, or sneaking around. The time to kill is also very low, especially if you're facing a skilled player, meaning your hopes and dreams of a nice chicken dinner can be easily crushed in a couple unsuspecting seconds, meaning the game's best strategy is stealth and combat effectiveness. This all adds into the game's inventory system being great for the type of game it is. However complex at first, it gets easy to use when you get the hang of it. There's also different vehicles such as cars and boats to help get around the large map quickly, but this can be dangerous as hitting something at high speeds results in a death-inducing explosion. Cars are also not such a good idea when eyes get small because everyone in the area will hear them and shoot the shit out of them. Fortnite has a significantly smaller map with 100 players, and because of this your chance of finding people are quite high. Meaning unless you're hiding or camping, you'll be finding people more often than in PUBG. This translates into much faster games. There's a very simplistic inventory system being able to hold only 5 items at a time, meaning you'll need to pick and choose wisely when looting. Catering perfectly to the fast-paced gameplay as you'll spend 80% less time looting and managing inventory system than in PUBG. Building is also extremely prominent, with most buildings and objects being able to be destroyed and harvested for resources, putting a different dynamic on battle royale games. This, however, does not slow down gameplay, as forts can easily be destroyed with the various explosive weapons in-game and regular ones as well, meaning the best strategy for utilizing forts to the fullest is to build small effective ones, conserving resources for when you inevitably have to move out of them and into the next eye. So it's best to think of forts as small temporary establishments and not permanent residencies. That is, of course, if you decide to use them. There are no vehicles in Fortnite to use, we're not counting the battle bus here. Because of the relatively small map size, they are not needed. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed and changed your mind if you thought Fortnite was just a ripoff. If you have any comments, criticisms, or questions, please ask in the comments below. I'll be going in and responding to all of them.